So guys, I did it again. I fell for the Huda Beauty hype. But this time, I spent £56. Hi guys, how are you all doing? So today I am going to talk about the new Huda Beauty eyeshadow palette. Now, you guys know that I haven't been a fan of Huda Beauty of late. You know, I purchased her liquid lipsticks and I know so many people love her liquid lipstick formula, and that is completely fine. Like, that's completely fine. I personally did not think that they were good. I also thought to myself, I'm not going to try any more of her products. And then she came out with the eyeshadow palette here, and I was like, you know what, this palette looks so good, I need to try it out. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews, and the ones that love it, they love it. The ones that don't love it, they really don't love it, and they're quite harsh with it. So I was like, do you know what, I'm not gonna let that sway me. I'm going to take this as it is, and I'm going to review this just coming at it without those opinions. Just bear with me with this, just bear with me, because I'm going to be completely honest about this palette. I love watching the reviews with all the maths, like, so you get 0.12 grams of this, and this equates to that, and that, like, I haven't got time for all that, sorry. But I will do my best to kind of explain to you what you're getting with this, okay? So the palette comes with a sleeve like this, okay? And again, her packaging is gorgeous. I really love Huda Beauty's packaging. Love the detail with the eyes on there, and then she's got Huda Beauty, and then the eyeshadow is like a golden kind of reflect as well. And it says Huda Beauty Textured Shadows Palette Rose Gold Edition, which suggests to me that she's going to have other editions. I believe this is a limited edition palette as well. Now, this palette retails for £56, I think, and I picked mine up from Cult Beauty when it first launched on Cult Beauty. As I'm talking now, it's not available on Cult Beauty, but at the moment, as I'm filming this, it is available on Harrods website if you want to pick it up, okay? Or you can get it from Huda Beauty's website, but I don't know if that's sold out as well. And I believe it will be available in the US in November, so just a few weeks time. So when you take off the sleeve, because this is a sleeve, when you take it off, you get this, which is basically her palette. You can see it's got a clear panel here, so you can see the eyeshadows on the inside. I have used this palette for the last couple of days, and because obviously I wanted to try it out, so mine's not looking the prettiest, but you can see the eyeshadows on the inside. You can see it says Huda Beauty here, and then all you have to do is turn it over, and then it's got Textured Shadows Palette Rose Gold Edition on the side as well. It's quite a thin palette, very lightweight palette as well, which is one of the first things I noticed, but I'll come to that in a moment. And then on the back, you've got the detail, like ingredients details, etc. there, and it tells you at the bottom how long to keep this for, so 12 months. Then you open up the windows, you can see the lid there. And then when you open it up, you get this plastic sheet on the inside, which I'm going to take out, and then you get the eyeshadows right there. So those are your eyeshadows. So in this palette you get 18 eyeshadows. As you can see, there are 3 formulas that she talks about in this. You get your deep matte formula, which is the majority of this eyeshadow palette, and then you get these pearlized eyeshadows, which I think the pearlized are are 2 of the shades here, and then you get the, what does she call them? She calls them the 3D metal shadows, and I think that's the like really heavily glitter kind of eyeshadows that you can see here. So I'm going to talk about each of the formulas. I will also show you some swatches of these and my general thoughts on this palette, and whether or not I think it's a love it or a leave it kind of palette, okay? I did actually create a look with this. I did test around and like play around with it, and I did create a look. I will put the look at the end of this video as well, so you can see how it was for me whilst I was using it, and how easy or hard it was to use and blend, etc. So I'll put that in there. When I first opened this and received this in the post, I opened it up and my heart kind of sunk a little bit, because I was like, oh, I paid £56 I think for this, and it feels dare I say, it feels quite cheap. Like, it feels very lightweight, cheap. It's cardboard, first of all. So this is a cardboard packaging. The plastic feels a bit flimsy. For £56, I thought that would, you know, I thought that this, you know, should have been finished a lot better, like the packaging itself aesthetically. With regards to the shadows, when I got this, I immediately wanted to start swatching this. I did, and you can see my initial swatches. I'll put them in this video. You can see my initial swatches that I did, and I went onto Snapchat and I told you guys, and I was not impressed on initial application of these textured shadows, which are like, I think this is the 3D metal shadows, I think. I wasn't impressed with these particular ones. I don't know if you can see, but I put my finger in this shade called Blessed here, and half the eyeshadow came out, and I didn't even put my finger in it that much. And you can see what I'm talking about there, like how it's already moving. I was like, what is going on? And that was the first time I swatched it, guys, so I was not impressed with that. But anyway, that's that shadow there. It's still a stunning shade, but I was just not impressed with the way in which they were easily moved in the palette, especially as it was the first time I used it. Talking about the pearl eyeshadows, there are two in here. The two in here are called Angelic and Moondust. I really like these shadows of this. This one, especially Angelic, is gorgeous. It's like a pinky gold, like a duochrome shadow. It's really, really nice, and I love that a lot. It reminds me of one of the new MAC highlighters. I can't remember which one. I think Show Gold, I think. And then the matte shadows, I was actually pleasantly surprised by them. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that the matte eyeshadows in this are not that great. Personally, I actually think they're quite nice. When you swatch them with your finger, they do come across quite dry. Like, actually they feel very dry when you swatch them with your finger, but they are quite pigmented. And when you swatch them with your finger, they do come across quite patchy, as you can see there. However, I will say that anyone that says about the shadows being patchy on finger application, in terms of the matte shadows, on finger application, I wouldn't necessarily listen to that much, because like, who puts on matte eyeshadows with their fingers? Like, hardly anyone. So, you know, you have to really test it out with a brush, and that's what I kind of thought to myself. Okay, I've swatched these with my fingers, but matte eyeshadows, I really need to see how they work with a brush when I'm blending them for me to make a proper judgment. These eyeshadows here, okay, these textured eyeshadows here at the bottom there, I personally don't like these, okay? I don't hate them, I just don't like them. I think that she needs to work on the formula a bit more for it to be really good, and I think if she can work on that formula, then it would work really well. Some of the shades are actually really nice, like Fling is my favorite one in this, and it's what I've got on my inner and outer V, and it's this like maroon kind of reddish color. It's gorgeous, and it swatches so nicely. Can you see? Like, it swatches beautiful. The worst color for me personally in terms of those shadows is 24K, which is this gold shade here. It's really, it flicks a lot, and one thing I will say, actually, a lot of these, the formula of these kind of change as well. Like, the 24K flakes quite a bit compared to this shade here, compared to Fling. But again, it's a beautiful color, it's just very flaky and clumpy, and I don't like that about it, but that's that color there. One thing that I will say is that Huda Beauty did mention that you are supposed to use your finger when applying these textured shadows, okay? She did mention that. She said these shadows in particular need to be used with your finger to apply it. Now, knowing that, I'm basing it on finger swatches, and from the finger swatches, unless you've got like a base, like unless you wet them, I find them to be patchy. Okay, now my hand was just damp because I had cleaned off using a damp cloth, and the swatch came out really, really well. But if my fingers were not damp, it wouldn't come off the same. You don't have a lot of space on your eyes to work with anyway, so using your fingers to try and apply a shadow that's quite flaky is going to be even more work, and that's where I don't think it works very well. Now, one thing I will say about these eyeshadows, the textured ones here, is they do remind me of the Natasha Denona eyeshadows, and it reminded me of this particular eyeshadow here, which is a glitter eyeshadow, and it's kind of that similar, can you see that? It's kind of that similar like formula where it can be quite patchy on application, and it does have that kind of flakiness to it. However, what I will say is that, can you see that, guys? What I will say is that with the Natasha Denona formula, this formula works a lot better than the Huda Beauty one. And also, this shade here in Natasha Denona also reminds me of the shade Angelic in Huda Beauty's palette, and I've just swatched them for you. So this shade is from the Natasha Denona palette, and then the shade on the top is from Huda Beauty's palette. So you can actually see that they are like the same eyeshadow, but Huda's one is a bit more flaky, basically. Even though they're not the best for application, I actually feel that they come out on your lids when you're actually applying them and you use them. They look so stunning on the eyes. They're so difficult to work with, but when you apply them, they look stunning. And this is where my dilemma with this palette goes. The packaging and some of the formulas, not great, but when you actually use them, guys, oh my gosh, they look so good. As you can see, I am using them today. In the center of my eye, I mean, I'm going to show you what I'm actually using today, but I'll quickly run through it. I am using Fling on my outer V, and I'm using Trust Fund, which is this shade here, and I'm using Blessed, which is this shade here, in my center of the lid. So yeah, love them. And then I've got a mixture of the different mattes in my crease. As I said on Snapchat, I think I said to you guys on Snapchat, if this palette just came with the pearlized eyeshadows and the mattes, I would love this palette. I think it would be really good. I wouldn't say it would be worth the £56 price tag that she's got attached to this, because I still don't think it's worth that. But I would definitely say it's a good palette. Now, my overall judgment of this, I don't really know what else to say, is, you know, it's not a terrible palette. I think people are being very harsh when they're saying how bad this palette is. It's not that bad, guys. Like, it really isn't that bad. But I think the fact that it's so expensive, she's kind of opened herself up to a lot of critique because of the price tag. But if it was cheaper, then I think people would have been a bit more forgiving for that. The only problem with this really are the textured shadows at the top, like the 3D matte, the 3D metals. Other than that, everything else works really well. I'm really enjoying the colors. The colors in this are just like my typical colors. I love the warm aspect of this palette. You know, it's, as it suggests, a rose gold. I just love all the colors in this. All the colors can work on my skin tone, and she really has, you know, ensured that everybody could use this palette and everyone can use this palette. So I really love it. I love the fact that you can also see the palette through the plastic. It's just that I thought the plastic was a bit flimsy. That was the only thing. I love the colors in this. They all work really well. You can create some really beautiful, stunning eyeshadow looks with this particular color arrangement. So I think actually she's done quite well with this. It's just, she just needs to tweak it quite a bit in terms of some of the eyeshadow formulas, and I think she would be on a good thing there. And I also think she should maybe consider reducing her price tag if she can, because it is quite a pricey palette. Not sure what else to say about this. I think it's a good palette, not worth the £56, but if you're looking to splurge, or if you're a fan of Huda Beauty's, then yeah, definitely try this. But I feel like you don't have to have this. And also, yeah, it's not the best palette out there, but it's not the worst like a lot of people are stating it is. So guys, if you want to see how I achieved this eye look using this particular palette, then just keep watching, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Take care, guys, and see you soon. Bye. Ciao. So I'm going to take Bay all over the lid, and Bay is this like matte kind of yellowy colour, like cream colour. But I'm going to put this all over the lid to set my concealer that I've put on my eyes already, and it will work as a great base because some of the colours that I want to use just might not blend properly, and also putting a lighter colour as my base makes it easier to see the transition colours. The brush I'm using is the, what is this? Morphe M504 brush. I'm going to now go into the shade Sandalwood, which is the lightest, I think it's the lightest brown shade in this. And I'm going to use this as my first kind of crease colour or transition colour, if you can call it that. And I'm just literally going to tap it off and just kind of put that into my crease as a transition. And I do like these matte shadows. I've heard a lot of people say that they find her shadows terrible, and to be honest, I kind of bought this thinking that that is what I would also think. But you know what, guys, it's not that bad. Now I'm going to go into the shade Henna, which is this really lovely like brown, burnt orangey brown kind of colour, and I'm going to take that again with the same brush, and I'm going to now go over that colour and kind of just deepen it up and kind of focus it more on the outer V, if that makes sense, and then bring it in lighter. So focus it on the outer V and then bring it in lighter. And I'm kind of bringing it onto my lid as well to kind of drag it down a bit. I'm going to build it up now with this colour here called Bossy, which is a gorgeous like purple colour, gorgeous matte purple. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing with this, concentrate it on the outer V, bring it more onto my lid, concentrate it on the outer V, and then blend it into the crease. But I'm going to stay below the other colours, if that makes sense, so I don't want it to go above the other colours. Then the next thing I'm going to do is take one of her pearl eyes, I think that's what she calls it. And I'm going to take the shade Angelic, which is a really gorgeous like duochrome kind of shade. And I'm going to put this all over my lid. And it's a gorgeous like duochrome, like pink and gold colour. Tap it off a bit. And that's going to go all over my lid. And the reason I'm putting this all over my lid initially is because when I put the textured shadows on top, because they're not very opaque, the textured shadows, I find that if I put them straight onto my lid without anything underneath them, you can see right through them and it looks really horrible. So putting one of the pearl eye shadows underneath works really well, or just like, you know, a really opaque matte shadow. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work with the textured shadows, which are these more like metallic shadows. Now Huda Beauty does say that you should use your fingers to work with these shadows. Saying that, I do need to kind of get in the inner corner. So I have got this little brush by Morphe M508 brush, and I have just gone into the shade Fling, which is this like red textured shadow there, and you can see how much I've picked up, and I'm going to attempt guys to put this into my inner V and outer V. So I did get a bit of fallout doing that. So I'm gonna just brush that away slightly. That's what it looks like so far. I use my fingernail, and I'm going to go with Trust Fund in the middle, and I think Blessed as well, which is this shade here. So now I really have to work with my small pinky finger with this because I think that works best. But taking my pinky finger, I'm literally going to press the shadow into the center of my lid. Then I'm going to take a brush and go under my eyes with some matte shadow. So I'm going to take the shades Bossy here, the plum shade, and Cocoa there, and just use that to kind of just blend out my waterline.
Goodbye love, you feel right by love.